let's review China's role in the global affairs in the world today, with particular reference on its relationship with G20. The reason I'm mentioning G20 is G20 is a platform that has a balanced representation between developed countries and developing countries. First such international organization. I will give you a few signature years in my mind, because I personally participated in these events. 4 signature years in which China or China's involvement in global governance has taken a turn. The first year I would like to mention in 2003, because it was in 2003 when French was the chair of G7, and for the first time, with French as the chair, G7 invited 5 big developing countries, heads of state, to participate in a consultation with G7. First time, developing countries found themselves face-to-face with developed countries to discuss global governance issues. China really cannot survive alone with other countries collapsing, bringing down the global financial system and economic regime we have. We cannot really prosper in isolation. That is the realization, that is the basis for China's decision to commit no more than 10% of the number British was asking, meaning $50 billion to buy IMF bonds. But of course, that summit was a huge success. We succeeded not only in meeting that target, we overfulfilled. And the final pool was to the amount of $1.1 trillion US, much more than what we had anticipated. And another significant achievement we made was in autumn of that year in Pittsburgh, at Pittsburgh Summit. In that summit, not too many people noticed there was a sentence in the leaders' declaration declaring G20 as the premier forum for international economic cooperation. Premier forum. We all know before that, the premier forum was G7. You have a problem, if you have a problem, you have a crisis, G7 will come together, discuss this and put forward the policy options. If you have currency exchange rate fluctuation, G7 will come forward, propose a solution. Now, not anymore. No G7 as a premier forum for international economic governance. It was G20. And also 8+5 was no more, was gone, explicitly. Not the only country, Mexico was a little reluctant because Mexico was originally in the 5. Now it was not in the BRICS 5, BRICS 4. So Mexico was a little lost as to that decision. But anyway, that was a very important, a turning point in the history of G20 and the global governance. Then, of course, we all remember last year in my hometown, Zhejiang, in Hangzhou, we had the summit of G20, Hangzhou Summit. 29 deliverables. And most important of all is China, after much persuasion and coordination, had put on the top of the agenda of G20 the issue of development. Think about it. The root cause of global economic imbalance, what is the root cause? Some country will blame currency manipulators, so to speak. Somebody will say this is imbalance in trade. Some country accumulating more surplus than needed, etc., etc. But China, from the very beginning, understood from its own success in domestic governance, economic governance, that is, we need to address this gap between rich and poor. We need to develop. The world needs to develop as a whole. You cannot anticipate global economic balance or sustainable economic development with a large group of countries, developing countries, not yet in the stage of industrialization or in the early stages of industrialization, lacking behind. You create an imbalance. It's inherent. It is not only economic in its sense, imbalance, but also social. Also social and political. That is achieved, of course, G20 Hangzhou Summit has many more achievements in global governance. Coming back again, I've talked about China's relationship with G20. This is only an example to illustrate China's relationship with the rest of the world has changed dramatically and historically. President Xi Jinping has described this change in the following terms. He said it on several occasions, on different occasions. You look at the screen, that's what he said. China has moved to the central stage of global affairs. China has now stood at a new starting point in history. And also concerning China dream, he said, China has never been so close in the history to the realization of China's dream of national rejuvenation. 3 simple sentences to give us a sense of what has changed, what has changed between China and the rest of the world.